What is up, crypto hackers? Welcome back to another episode of Hack Crypto, where we hack everything our metaverse education. And if you guys are brand new here, slap a like on this video if you like this type of content. And also, if you're into the metaverse, NFTs, crypto, Web3, all of the above, be sure to be subscribed with notifications on, so you get a little notification on YouTube whenever I publish a video here on the channel. On this special episode, I sit down with Diego, the co-founder and COO of Over. This is a really cool augmented reality metaverse play, and it is a fantastic conversation that I sit down and have with Diego. Now, we are working with them at Sandstorm to do this really cool judge panel of artists that are getting involved with Over. If you guys are not familiar with Sandstorm, I'm the founder and CEO of Sandstorm. We're a team of about 15 people and a community of 500,000 metaverse builders in Web 2 and Web 3. About 100,000 of those are Blender 3D artists, which are who I believe to be really working on Unity and pioneering a lot of the AR and VR world. And the rest are voxel incredible artists, like literally mind-bendingly good voxel artists in the community. And on the platform, which is a marketplace that connects brands and builders, brands can submit build proposals where thousands of verified and high quality builders can bid on that work. Studios and individuals can bid and get access to that work. It's a two-sided marketplace like an Airbnb and an Uber, but except for building in the metaverse. And the goal here is to be the entire construction layer across the open metaverse. And that consists of virtual worlds just like Over and Space, Immersed VR, Sandbox, Decentraland, TCG World, and many, many more to come. If that sounds good to you, definitely be sure once again to smash a like. All the links will be in the description below, so you can check out Over and of course Sandstorm. And without further ado, let's dive right into my interview here with Diego from Over. All right, everybody. Today I am joined by Diego Di Tommaso, and he is the CEO and founder of Over. How's it going, Diego?
All right, that's great. Nice to be here.
Yeah, excited to get into Over and learn more about it. But before we do, let's get into your background. What brought you into Web3 in the space?
Well, it's a kind of long journey. Let's say that in terms of Web3 and crypto in general, I mean, my passion started back in 2014 when I read the Bitcoin white paper. And back then I thought that, everybody was going to use Bitcoin in 2 years or something like that. Of course, it didn't happen. But I kept, going more and more down the rabbit hole. 2017, I was mining Ethereum. And actually, the time I met my co-founder, Davide, was at an event where I was talking about crypto and showcasing my mining rigs. And basically, we will start talking about this project that night. So, really, it's like a lot of coincidence that come together. So, I had this big passion for crypto. He had a very strong background in AR and VR, but for the B2B world. And so when we met, we start dreaming, how could we create a platform instead of vertical use cases, and a platform that is powered by crypto. And I know that like right now, with all the metaverse, trend and so on, this looked quite familiar, but back then was not really. So the idea looked very, very crazy. It turned out well, but yes, back then, NFTs were not a thing, and metaverse term didn't exist. The real metaverse that was out there back then was Decentraland, and that was actually probably one of our strongest inspirations when we built Over.
Cool. Very cool. And I like the question of why now often with these things, and NFTs are the why now, I think, of the metaverse. Like it clicked with everybody because the ownership part was missing from the traditional virtual experiences. So it's really an exciting why now time for sure. So let's talk about Over and kind of get into the nitty gritty there. Let's start with a high level as to what it is, and then let's talk about the AR component.
Yeah, so at the very high level, what Over is doing is connecting 3D experiences, AR 3D experiences, to geographic locations. So really, if we look at like from 1,000 miles, what we're doing is just combining the two. So putting some AR experience in some location. And so in order to do that, so it's a platform to create AR that is geolocalized. And in order to do that, the platform is made up, again, at a high level, made up of three main layers. You was mentioning, the first one is an ownership layer, then we have a mapping layer, and then we have the builder, the software that is used to publish the content. You was mentioning before this idea of NFTs, the fact that they click together with the metaverse, the fact that you can actually have this ownership that is actually decentralized. And so the base layer, the ownership layer, is made up of hexagons, like the ones that you see behind me. And so we break down the world in hexagons of 300 square meters. And we think about those hexagons in the same way we think about web domains. So you have a web domain and you publish content in a 2D space, in a 2D page, while with our lens, you have a spatial domain. So you have geographic coordinates. And if you own one of these geographic coordinates, you can publish content in that location, augmenting, editing the physical world in the location. So, and of course, all of these are NFTs, and right now are on the Polygon blockchain. We started on Ethereum, but since the price of our lens is very accessible, because the cost is $10, from $10 to $100. Back in the days when the gas prices were crazy, that didn't really make sense. So we decided to move this ownership layer to Polygon, yet staying in the AVM compatibility system. So over that, we have this mapping layer that I was mentioning you. And this is kind of the thing that we believe it's very, very important, especially connected to Web3. So when you do geolocalized augmented reality like us, basically you have a problem. The problem is that the system right now, the mobile phone, because the experience is you can have it right now with mobile phones, and when there are smart glasses, you will use smart glasses. But the system needs to know where you are, because it needs to project some 3D content in a specific location. So the easy way to do that is through GPS. And we saw some successful use cases of using GPS. For example, Pokemon Go, huge success just using GPS. But in that specific use case, you didn't really care about precision. You're just collecting those Pokemons around. You don't care really where they are. But if your vision is like ours, to really augment the physical world, you need precision. So if you want, for example, to put a virtual hat on a statue, you need to be exactly there. But outdoor, maybe the problem is not so big. You have like 1-2 meters precision. But if you go indoor, where unfortunately we spend most of our life, GPS totally doesn't work. So in order to overcome this problem, we built a system that we call Map to Earn, that basically allows to users to take pictures of location with normal smartphone, no LiDAR needed. And from these pictures, we create a 3D map that can be used by creators as a reference to augment the location. So maybe you're not in the location, you ask somebody to take the pictures of Times Square, you have a 3D map of Times Square, so you have a reference where to put objects. And another thing that this does is basically trains a neural network. So the next time the camera of the phone sees that location, localize you in space with 20 centimeters accuracy. And so you don't need any more GPS. GPS is just a proxy, but for the specific localization, you use this system. And the Web3 part over here, we believe that probably is even more important than the ownership of the land, because basically what we are building is a 3D map of the world. And this 3D map of the world is actually the gate to what we think is the augmented reality metaverse. I mean, Web2 companies are already collecting this data. For example, Google, Niantic, Microsoft, I mean, you name it, the big companies working on AR are actually, they do have these maps. The problem is that they own these maps and they will actually extract value out of these maps like they did in the past and they keep doing with the Web3 economy. So with Web3, this effort is a community effort. So people that actually map locations own that map, again, in form of NFT. So this system really, we believe that is, again, a core technology because, again, as I said before, we are combining 3D objects with physical space. So this system allows you to do this connection precisely. And finally, the third layer is this builder. So this software that allows you to upload the content. We have two kinds of software. We have one easy to use browser-based interface. So you just drag and drop 3D files or NFTs that you own. And then we have a more expressive tool that is a Unity SDK. So if you can code in Unity, you can actually edit the physical world, also adding logics and all the cool stuff that you can do on Unity. And basically, you can also build games over this system. And that's it at the very, very high level. But also, I should add that when you are in this metaverse, again, your physical presence is represented by an avatar. So we create photorealistic avatars. So from a selfie of your face, we just create a 3D mesh, and we give you a body, you have NFT clothes that you can wear and so on. So you also have a physical presence, and so you can interact with others through those avatars. So you are not a passive spectator of this metaverse, but you are an actor inside it.
Got it. Very cool. And what stage are you guys at? Is it live? Are there people actually running around in there? Because there's a lot of conversations around active users and whatnot. So what can you share about with that?
Yeah, there was a big mess lately about data. And so I would say that our system probably is like 60% complete for the way we see it, but the basic functionalities are out there. So again, trying to talk about it on a layer perspective. In terms of the lens, it's out there since almost 2 years. 850,000 of those lands was acquired by 30,000 owners. So we have also a very big owner community, even bigger than Sandbox actually. But of course, this is because the accessibility is very easy because the price is low. And so that is live. The two builders that I mentioned you are live. Actually, 17,000 locations have been augmented by the community, by our community of creators. And also we have an app that is out there even for more than 2.5 years right now. And so, yeah, I mean, the system works. You can try, you can test it, you can play with it. We have 1 million registered users, I mean, historically. And right now that we are like in the beer market, what we see in terms of activity, we got around 35,000 monthly users, while back in the top of the bull market, we was around 120,000 monthly active users. And when we say monthly active users, we mean users of the app. Of course, if you bring these numbers to that radar, it will be very, very different because that only traces crypto interactions, while our final user doesn't necessarily have to know about crypto. It's just the underlying system of ownership of lands and NFTs and so on that actually compels this Web3 version. So the final user can know about crypto. He can connect with the app, in the app with MetaMask, for example, but that doesn't have to. He can also just connect with any social without really having to know the nitty-gritty of our world.
Got it. Very cool. And 1 million registered users is impressive for sure in the space to have. And that's, like you said, the ease of use being right there on the browser is such a key part to all of this, is making it easy to use and easy to interact with. So the last bit that I wanted to touch on is the staking component. So something that Sandbox really did well with landowners was staking. You'd get a multiple based on the amount of lands that you had. What are you guys doing with staking, and how does that work?
Yeah, so basically staking is a component that we added, I think it was 1.5 years ago, back when all the staking trend really exploded. And right now we are in the midst of releasing the new version of staking that we call Staking 2.0. And basically, in our case, what we add from like plain vanilla staking is the fact that we have some reserve lands, and these reserve lands will be available to bid for people that stake. So it's not that many. It's like maybe 6,000 out of the trillions that are out there, but are in specific cool places like the Colosseum and so on. And so, I mean, the added value other than only the token, there's the opportunity to actually bid for those lands if you actually are doing the staking. So yeah.
And the last question that I have for you is, what are you excited about? You know, you've been building in the space for a few years, and you kind of have seen a lot come and go. When you get up in the morning outside of Over, what is it that you're overly excited about?
Wow, this is a question that I ask myself every day. So no, because the question that I reinterpret it is, what is the next big thing in crypto? No, and so because I mean we had DeFi, we had NFTs, we have the trend of Metaverse, and so on. And I'm trying to figure out what is the next one. So DAOs, but DAOs we already saw. Maybe they will explode later, because sometimes the market understands things later, like for NFTs, for example. But what I think and what I'm very excited about is the scalability that we are going to start seeing in the next months, like with the uncompromised security. So what I refer to is all these ZK rollup solutions that we are seeing coming to the market, and that basically will allow to scale the EVM ecosystem with a huge amount of transactions, very low cost, and with the same security guarantees that basically you have on Ethereum. I believe that, nobody really knows the future, but I think that the fact of being able to transact, to create a lot of transactions with low friction for users will be huge in terms of adoption. And I say this because I remember the pain during the bull market when really transacting on Ethereum was a big problem. And that's also the reason why we saw many projects moving to other platforms, like, for example, Binance Chain, or all the new layer ones that we see around. Their main value proposition basically was the scalability. So yeah, this is what I'm excited about in this kind of not exciting moment of the market. And another thing that I can kind of push me over is also, all of this activity that I see in terms of creating content. So also, on the platform, also what we observe in our platform, of course, like any other platforms, if we talk about sales of NFTs and so on, those went down. But in terms of creators' activity, I see that this is keeping quite steady. And so this is a very good signal, at least for, let's say, the Metaverse niche, if compared to the rest of the market. So I would say this is something that really excites me.
Agreed. Well said. Well, those are all the questions I have for you. Wherever you guys are listening or watching, the links will be in the description below. But thanks so much for coming on, Diego.
Thanks a lot. It was a pleasure.
That is it for my interview with Diego from Over the Reality. He's an awesome entrepreneur. I really liked talking to him about just the mission of the metaverse as a whole, and just what they're doing is really innovative and clever. I like the play that they're doing and the angle that they're taking to it. Now, all these different virtual worlds, we're working with 5 over at Sandstorm, and all these different virtual worlds are doing an incredible job of trying to develop the creativity for the future of commerce, for the future of socializing, gaming, everything, fashion, all of it. And doing that is just so much to bite off. Literally just a huge mission to try and move the world into a digital and virtual experience. And that is where AR actually comes in, because AR, being augmented reality and virtual reality, are slightly different. And big difference for people that are in the space. But for people listening, augmented reality is just sort of changing the world that you're in currently. And virtual reality is just a full-blown immersive experience in a virtual world. Now, I think that there's a lot of cool nuances and differences between these two, but ultimately AR is like a bridge piece to VR. And that's kind of how I view it, where AR is this hybrid world, and then VR is just that full world. And I really like that they're going with this angle first, because a lot of metaverses are just trying to, have you fully immersed within the world right out of the gate. And sometimes there needs to be a step in between. So it's really cool to see them doing this. And if you check all the links in the description, you'll see some of the stats of Over, and it's quite impressive. We're going to be on that panel judging a lot of the cool creative work that they're doing for a contest. And I'm excited to participate in that as well. So that's it for this episode. Slap a like if you like this video, and I will see you on the next episode here on Hack Crypto.